There was a time, not so long ago, when being away from home meant disappearing from the world. No updates, no calls, no lifeline. If your car broke down on a midnight highway, you were alone until you found a glowing payphone somewhere in the dark. Tonight, we go back to that world, a world where unreachable wasn't an error message. It was a way of life. The Night He Walked 3 Miles Midnight, November 1992, Highway 71 in Ohio. Dark, empty, cold. David's car made a sound it had never made before, a grinding metallic shriek from under the hood, then just stopped. Lost power, coasted to the shoulder. He turned the key, trying to restart. Nothing, not even a click. Dead. He sat there a moment, hands on the wheel, processing. He was 45 minutes from home. It was midnight. His wife expected him an hour ago, probably worried already, and he had no way to tell her where he was, no way to call for help, no way to contact anyone. Because in 1992, if you weren't near a phone, you were unreachable, and David wasn't near a phone. He was on a dark highway in the middle of nowhere. He got out, popped the hood, looked at the engine with a flashlight from the glove box. He wasn't a mechanic, couldn't diagnose the problem, wouldn't be able to fix it if he could. He closed the hood, stood there looking at the empty road. No cars had passed in the 10 minutes since he'd stopped. Could be hours before someone came by. His options: wait in the car, hope someone stops, hope they have a phone or can give him a ride, or walk, find a payphone, call his wife, call a tow truck. He chose to walk, started down the shoulder, briefcase in hand because he didn't want to leave it in the car, flashlight pointed ahead. The nearest town was about 3 miles back the way he'd come. There'd be a gas station probably, a payphone. He walked for 45 minutes, cars passing occasionally, none stopping. His feet hurt. His suit was wrong for this. He was cold and exhausted, but he kept walking because there was no alternative. Finally, lights ahead. A gas station still open, 24-hour. He walked to the payphone on the outside wall, dug in his pocket for quarters, dialed home. His wife answered on the first ring. "David, where are you? I've been worried sick." "Car broke down on 71. I'm at a gas station about 10 miles south of town. Can you come get me?" "Of course. I'll be there in 20 minutes." He hung up, called a tow service from the phone book chained to the phone. They said they'd have someone there in an hour. David sat on the curb outside the gas station, waiting, thinking about how medieval this was. How in 1992, being stranded meant being truly stranded. Cut off, unreachable, dependent on finding a physical phone attached to a wall. His wife arrived, took him home. The tow truck got his car the next day. The repair cost $800. But what David remembered most wasn't the cost. It was the 3-mile walk in the dark, the helplessness, the isolation of being somewhere without a phone. 2 years later, Christmas 1994, his wife gave him a present, a large box, heavy. He opened it. Inside, a Motorola cell phone. The Brick model, famous for its size and weight. Thick as a brick, heavy as a brick, looked like something from a sci-fi movie. "So you're never stranded again," she said. David looked at it. The phone cost $600. The service plan cost $50 per month plus $1 per minute for calls. Expensive, but he remembered that night on the highway, remembered the 3-mile walk, and thought, "This is worth it. To never be unreachable again." He kept it in his car, in the glove box, turned off to save battery, only for emergencies, only for situations like that night. He used it maybe once a month, always feeling guilty about the per-minute charges, but grateful it was there. He never imagined that 20 years later, everyone would have a phone in their pocket, that phones would be small and light and cheap, that people would make 50 calls a day without thinking about cost. In 1994, a mobile phone was an emergency tool, a luxury, a backup, not something you used casually. But David kept that Motorola Brick in his car for 5 years, until technology improved and smaller phones became available. And he never forgot what it felt like to be stranded without it, to be unreachable, to be cut off from everyone because you weren't near a landline. That memory defined his relationship with mobile phones. They weren't toys or conveniences. They were lifelines, insurance against isolation. And that understanding, born from one cold night walking 3 miles in the dark, stayed with him forever. The world of payphones before mobile phones, if you needed to make a call away from home or work, you found a payphone. They were everywhere, on street corners, in gas stations, in malls, airports, hotels, restaurants, metal boxes with coin slots and thick handsets chained to the box so they couldn't be stolen. Using a payphone was a skill. You needed coins, usually quarters, though some took dimes and nickels. You'd pick up the handset, listen for the dial tone, deposit your coins, hear them clank inside the machine, then dial. If the person answered, you talked until you heard the warning beeps indicating your time was almost up. Then you'd feed more quarters or get cut off mid-sentence. Long-distance calls from payphones were expensive, 50 cents to $1 per minute or more, depending on distance. So you kept them short, got to the point quickly, hung up. No casual conversation. No, how's your day going? Just essential information exchanged rapidly. Payphones were dirty, often broken. The handsets smelled bad. Previous users' cologne or cigarette smoke, or just general uncleanliness. The buttons were sticky. The cords were frayed. But you used them anyway because they were the only option, and you had to know where they were. Mentally map them. There's a payphone at the gas station on Main, one in the mall food court, one outside the movie theater. You'd plan your routes around known payphone locations just in case. If you were meeting someone and running late, you'd find a payphone, call them. I'm stuck in traffic, be there in 20 minutes. Without payphones, you just showed up late and hoped they'd wait. If your car broke down, you'd walk until you found a payphone, call a tow truck, then walk back to your car and wait. Or you'd stay with the car and hope someone stopped and offered to make a call for you. If your teenager was out and needed a ride, they'd find a payphone, call home. Mom, can you pick me up? You'd write down payphone numbers for places your kids might be. Tell them, call from this number if you need me. Collect calls were common. You have a collect call from Sarah. Will you accept the charges? Parents would accept. Teenagers would use this to call home for free. Or you'd call, let it ring once, hang up, a pre-arranged signal meaning I'm here or I'm okay, no charge. The 1-800 system was revolutionary, free calls to businesses. You could call customer service, order products, get information, all without paying. Companies put their 800 numbers on everything, made themselves accessible. But personal calls, talking to friends or family while away from home, that required payphones and coins and planning. Spontaneity was limited. Freedom was constrained by the distance to the nearest phone. This was normal. Everyone accepted it. You couldn't reach people when they weren't home. You couldn't be reached when you weren't home. That's just how it was. You left messages on answering machines, hoped people checked them. You made plans in advance and stuck to them because changing plans required finding a phone. The world moved slower. People were less accessible, less connected, and for the most part, they didn't mind because they didn't know any different. The brick that changed everything, the first truly portable mobile phone available to consumers, was the Motorola Dynatac 8000X, released in 1983. It weighed 2 pounds, measured 13 inches long, had 30 minutes of talk time, took 10 hours to charge, and cost $3,295, about $12,000 in today's money. Plus, service fees of $150 per month, plus $2 per minute for calls. Almost nobody bought them. Only the very wealthy corporate executives, real estate agents who needed to be reachable constantly. For most people, $4,000 for a phone was incomprehensible. You could buy a car for that. A used car, but still. Through the late 1980s, mobile phones slowly improved, got slightly smaller, slightly cheaper, slightly more reliable, but they were still luxury items, still rare. If you saw someone with a car phone or a mobile phone in 1988, you knew they were rich or important or both. Then, in the early 1990s, prices dropped, technology improved, phones got smaller, lighter, more affordable. By 1994, you could get a mobile phone for $600, $800. Still expensive, but not impossible. Service plans became more competitive. More carriers entered the market. Prices dropped to $30, $50 per month with per-minute charges. Middle-class professionals started buying them. Salespeople, consultants, parents who wanted to be reachable for their kids. The phones were still large, still called bricks or bag phones, because they were too big for pockets. You carried them in a bag or kept them in your car. But they worked. You could call anyone from anywhere. Breakdown on the highway? Call for help. Running late? Call and let people know. Emergency? Call 911 from wherever you are. The freedom was intoxicating, the security undeniable. David used his Motorola Brick maybe 10 times in the first year. Each call cost him $5, $10, given the per-minute charges. He'd think hard before making a call. Was it worth $7 to tell his wife he'd be late? Often yes, but not always. The cost made you careful, made you consider if each call was necessary. But having it in the glove box changed how he felt about driving, about being away from home. He was no longer cut off, no longer isolated. If something happened, he could call. That psychological security was worth the $50 monthly fee. Even in months, he didn't make any calls. By 1997, phones got smaller. The candy bar style, small enough for a pocket, light enough to carry all day. David upgraded, paid $300 for a Nokia 6160. Now he carried the phone with him, not just in the car. Started using it more, maybe 20 calls a month. Still careful about minutes, still aware of costs, but less restricted. By 2000, phones were common. Not universal, but common. Maybe 40% of American adults had mobile phones. They were still expensive to use, still limited by minutes plans, still a luxury more than a necessity. But they were becoming normal, becoming expected. And David, who'd walked 3 miles in the dark in 1992, never took them for granted. Every time he made a call from somewhere other than home or office, he felt a small gratitude. This device, this small piece of technology, meant he'd never be stranded again, never be cut off, never be unreachable. That was worth everything it cost. The meeting that couldn't change. Before mobile phones, plans were rigid. If you agreed to meet someone at 3 p.m. at the mall, you met at 3 p.m. at the mall. No calling to say you'd be late. no texting, running 15 min behind. You were just late, and the other person waited or didn't. Sarah experienced this constantly in 1995. She was a real estate agent, met clients at properties to show houses. The appointments were scheduled days in advance, everyone agreeing on the time and location. If the client got lost or stuck in traffic, there was no way to communicate. They'd just not show up on time, and Sarah would wait, not knowing if they were 5 minutes away or had canceled entirely. She'd wait 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, before giving up. Sometimes the client would arrive 45 minutes late, apologizing profusely, explaining about traffic or wrong turns. Sarah would smile, say it's fine, and show the house. But those wasted hours added up, cost her productivity, cost her money. In 1996, Sarah bought a mobile phone, gave her clients the number, told them, "If you're running late or can't find the place, call me." It changed her business immediately. Clients would call from their cars. "I'm lost. Where exactly is the house?" She'd give directions, save the appointment. Or they'd call, "Stuck in traffic. Can we push back 20 minutes?" She'd say yes, adjust her schedule, use the time productively. Her productivity increased 30% just from not wasting time waiting for clients who were delayed. The phone paid for itself in 2 months. Other agents noticed, started buying phones too. By 1998, having a mobile phone as a real estate agent was essentially required. Clients expected you to be reachable, to be responsive, to be flexible. But for regular people, people not in businesses requiring constant availability, mobile phones were still optional, still expensive, still used sparingly. Plans were still mostly rigid. Meet you at 7, see you there, still meant show up at 7, hope the other person does too, wait if they don't. This changed gradually through the late 90s and early 2000s as phones became cheaper, plans became unlimited, and texting emerged. By 2005, running late texts were common, expected. Plans became fluid, adjustable in real time. The rigidity of the pre-mobile era faded, but people who lived through both eras remembered when plans were commitments you couldn't change once you'd left home. Remembered waiting for people who never showed, not knowing if they'd be 5 minutes or never. Remembered the anxiety of being late with no way to communicate. The mobile phone didn't just add convenience, it removed anxiety. The constant low-level stress of, what if I'm late? What if they're late? What if plans change? All of that stress dissolved with the ability to call or text in real time. People who only knew the mobile era took this for granted, could never understand what it was like to make a plan and have zero ability to adjust it. To them, that sounded insane, impossible. How did anything function? But it did. People just accepted inflexibility, built extra time into everything, waited patiently when others were late, because there was no alternative. The teenager who couldn't call home. Jennifer was 16 in 1993, just got her driver's license, started driving herself to school, to friends' houses, to the mall. Her parents' main rule: call home if your plans change. Let us know where you are, when you'll be back. This required finding payphones. If Jennifer was at the mall and decided to stay an extra hour, she'd find the payphone in the food court, dig in her purse for quarters, call home. "Mom, it's me, staying until 8 instead of 7. That okay?" Her mom would say yes or no, and Jennifer would plan accordingly. If she was at a friend's house and it got late, she'd use their home phone, call her parents. "Can I stay for dinner?" They'd discuss, decide, adjust plans. But if she was driving and something happened, she was stuck. Car problems, traffic jam, got lost, no way to communicate. She'd just be late, and her parents would worry. One night in November 1993, Jennifer got lost driving home from a friend's house, took a wrong turn, ended up in a neighborhood she didn't recognize. This was before GPS, before Google Maps. She had a paper map, but couldn't read it while driving, couldn't figure out where she was. She drove around for an hour, increasingly panicked, trying to find a landmark she recognized. Finally found a gas station, pulled in, used the payphone. Her dad answered, clearly worried. "Where are you?" "I don't know. I'm lost." She described what she could see. He gave her directions. She got home an hour late. Her parents weren't angry, just relieved. But the experience rattled everyone. Jennifer had been unreachable for over an hour. Her parents had no way to find her, help her, know if she was okay. She'd been alone, lost, scared, with no lifeline. In 1996, for her graduation, her parents bought her a mobile phone, a Motorola flip phone, small enough for her purse. They paid for the service, $40 per month, told her, "Keep it charged. Call us if you need anything, anytime." Jennifer kept it in her purse, used it rarely because minutes were expensive, and she didn't want to run up the bill. But having it changed everything psychologically. She wasn't alone anymore. If she got lost or had car trouble or was in danger, she could call. Immediately, from wherever she was, her parents felt better too. Their daughter was reachable. If she didn't come home on time, they could call her, check on her. The anxiety of parenting a teenage driver dropped significantly. By 2000, most teenagers had mobile phones, often hand-me-downs from parents who'd upgraded. Parents bought them primarily for safety, for peace of mind. The cost was justified by the reduced worry, the increased security, and a generation grew up never knowing what it was like to be a teenager without a phone, without constant connectivity to parents and friends. They couldn't imagine being lost without being able to call for help. Couldn't imagine their parents not being able to reach them. The isolation of the pre-mobile era was incomprehensible to them. The businessman who couldn't be reached. Tom was a sales manager in the early 1990s, traveled for work, spent half his time in hotel rooms in different cities. His office needed to reach him regularly with questions, updates, problems requiring his decision. The system was clunky. Tom would call the office from his hotel room every morning and evening, check in, get updates, provide guidance. If something urgent came up between his calls, the office had to wait or try to page him. Pagers were common in the 90s, small devices that buzzed when someone called a special number. The pager would display the caller's phone number, and you'd find a payphone and call them back. Tom had a pager, wore it on his belt. It would buzz, he'd check the number, find a payphone, call his office. This worked, but was inefficient. If his office needed him urgently, they'd page him, then wait 10-30 minutes while he found a phone and called back. By then, the situation might have escalated or resolved itself. The delay was frustrating for everyone. In 1995, Tom's company started issuing mobile phones to traveling salespeople. Tom got a Motorola StarTAC, one of the first truly pocket-sized phones. Suddenly, his office could call him anytime, anywhere. He could make decisions in real time, solve problems immediately, stay connected constantly. His productivity increased. His stress decreased. No more hunting for payphones. No more wondering if the office was trying to reach him. No more delays in critical communications. The phone paid for itself immediately in increased efficiency, but it also meant he was always reachable, always on call, couldn't disconnect, couldn't have downtime without being contacted. Some traveling salespeople loved this, others resented it. Tom mostly loved it. The increased control and responsiveness outweighed the loss of disconnection. By 2000, being unreachable as a business traveler was unprofessional. Clients and colleagues expected you to have a mobile phone, to answer calls, to be responsive. The business world had adapted to constant connectivity, moved faster, expected more. The pre-mobile era of leaving messages and waiting for callbacks seemed antiquated. How did business function when key people were unreachable for hours? Slowly, inefficiently, with delays built into every process. Mobile phones removed those delays, accelerated business, increased expectations. Tom retired in 2010, carried a smartphone everywhere by then, could answer emails, make calls, join video conferences from anywhere. The concept of being unreachable was extinct, and mostly he was glad. Though sometimes he missed the forced disconnection of hotel rooms in 1990, the hours where nobody could reach him and he could just exist without demands. What we lost. Mobile phones gave us connectivity, but they took away something too: permission to be unavailable. Before mobile phones, being unreachable wasn't rude or irresponsible. It was normal. You were home or you weren't. You were at the office or you weren't. If someone couldn't reach you, they waited or left a message. Nobody was offended. With mobile phones, especially as they became universal in the 2000s, being unreachable became suspicious. Why didn't you answer? Where were you that you couldn't pick up? Not answering a call required justification. The right to disconnect disappeared. Work could reach you on weekends. Family could reach you anytime. Friends expected quick responses. Constant availability became the default, and opting out became difficult. Privacy faded. Before mobile phones, your location was your business. You could be somewhere without anyone knowing. With mobile phones, especially with GPS, your location was traceable. Partners tracked each other. Parents tracked children. Employers tracked employees. Patience disappeared. Before mobile phones, you'd wait hours or days for responses. Someone would call you back when they got home. You'd check your messages once a day. With mobile phones, responses were expected immediately. Waiting an hour felt like forever. Solitude became harder. You couldn't be truly alone if you carried a phone. Even if you didn't answer, the buzzing and ringing were reminders that people wanted your attention. True disconnection required turning off the phone, which felt like abandoning responsibility. But what we gained was safety, convenience, connection. No more being stranded, no more missing emergencies, no more rigid plans. The ability to reach anyone, anytime, from anywhere. For most people, the trade was worth it. But some people, especially those who lived in both eras, sometimes missed the forced disconnection of the pre-mobile world. The hours where you simply couldn't be reached, and nobody expected you to be. The freedom of being genuinely alone, genuinely unreachable, without guilt or explanation. That world is gone now. Almost everyone has a phone. Almost everyone is reachable almost all the time. And we've accepted this, adapted to it, built our lives around it. But occasionally, people who remember the before times turn off their phones, leave them at home, experience a few hours of the old world, and remember what it felt like to be unreachable by choice. not by accident. David in 2024. David is 77 years old now. He carries an iPhone, upgraded every few years, uses it constantly, makes video calls with grandchildren, texts his kids, checks email, reads news, takes photos. His phone is his camera, his map, his communication hub, his entertainment device. But sometimes he thinks about that night in 1992, Highway 71, his car dead, walking 3 miles in the dark, the isolation, the helplessness, the fear, and how a mobile phone would have solved everything instantly. He kept that first Motorola Brick for years, even after upgrading to better phones. Couldn't throw it away. It sat in a drawer, a relic, a reminder. Eventually, he donated it to a technology museum, thought they might want it for their collection. They did. His grandson, 16, same age Jennifer was in 1993, has never known life without a mobile phone. Got his first phone at 12, carries it everywhere, makes 100+ texts per day, constant connection to friends and family. David tries to explain sometimes what it was like before. You couldn't reach anyone unless they were home. You couldn't be reached unless you were home. You made plans and had to stick to them. His grandson looks confused. So what did you do if you were late? You were just late. People waited or they didn't. That sounds terrible. It was. That's why mobile phones changed everything. His grandson can't really understand, has never been truly unreachable, has never made a plan he couldn't adjust, has never been lost without GPS, has never experienced the isolation of being somewhere without communication. David sometimes envies that freedom, the constant connectivity his grandson has always known. But he also values knowing both worlds, understanding what was lost and gained. The isolation of the pre-mobile era was real, sometimes dangerous, always limiting, but it was also simpler, slower, less demanding. He looks at his iPhone sometimes, this small device that replaced his landline, his camera, his TV, his maps, his books, his music player, his calendar, his alarm clock, his watch, everything in one device, and remembers the Motorola Brick, 2 pounds of plastic and electronics, $600 in 1994, that did one thing, make phone calls, poorly, expensively, and thinks, we've come so far, 30 years from brick to smartphone, from $1 per minute to unlimited everything, from rare luxury to universal necessity, from being unreachable most of the time to being reachable all the time. Better? Mostly, yes. He wouldn't go back, but sometimes, very occasionally, he misses the forced disconnection, the hours where nobody could reach him because he wasn't near a phone, the permission to be unavailable without explanation. That world is gone, and David is glad mostly. But he remembers the night he walked 3 miles in the dark before everyone had phones. Write in the comments, do you remember life before mobile phones? Ever been stranded without a way to call? When did you get your first cell phone? What changed?